When I finished my university dissertation, I realised I was hundreds of words over the word count, which led to the most stressful and brain-frazzling days of my life as I tried to reduce the word count of it without removing any key information and while still trying to have it make sense. Every university essay has a word count, and going over this word count can lead to some harsh punishments. And today we are going to look at 5 unique essay hacks that will reduce your word count, and they're a bit more rogue than the standard suggestions you'll find on Google. Writing essays at university is such a drag, but it is something that needs to be perfected. I mean, back in my day I used to hate writing essays, and I always used to end up over the word count, and I used to stand there and look at my essays and dissertation for ages, and stare and look and think, I don't know what to remove, because if I remove this sentence, the whole thing doesn't make sense. In my opinion, everything that I wrote was like key and integral to the essay, because I'd already got rid of all the rubbish stuff. And without wanting to rewrite the whole thing, I used to be baffled about what I could remove from it to get under the word count, until I started using some of these methods. And in current circumstances where in-person exams have been replaced by online exams, which have like a relaxed time frame, a lot longer to do them, and subsequently a word count, this video is, I think, worth sticking around for. So today I'm going to show you how you can get below the word count without removing that one paragraph that's going to take you from a 2-1 to a first. So the first method to reduce your word count is definitely a bit risky and rogue. It's been known to work in the past though. The second is much more about playing the system, playing the game, and the other 3 are more a bit rogue but more generic ways to reduce your word count. Now the first method to reduce your word count while not sacrificing the quality of the essay is to do something that I did a lot in secondary school, and all of my friends did it for geography coursework back in GCSE days, and that is essentially to screenshot a paragraph of your essay and insert it as a photo where the text would be. So what I mean by this is you basically, if you had a paragraph in your essay, you could screenshot just that paragraph, then delete the written paragraph and reinsert the image of that final paragraph in the exact proportions of the actual text that was there before. And then obviously when you're looking at the word count at the bottom left, the word count will reduce by the amount of that paragraph, and the photo won't show up in the word count, but you still get to keep the words there. And now this one is very flawed, because if your lecturer or teacher or somebody decided, you know what, I'm not going to trust the word count there, let me check it, and he highlights everything, but then for some reason can't highlight the last thing, he might think, or she might think, maybe they've inserted this as a paragraph. Or they might think my computer's broken, or they might count every single word and add that onto their highlighted bit and call you out on it and make, it could go wrong. It could go very wrong. Disclaimer. Or they might not check it, you might be very lucky and get away with it. You just don't know what's going to happen. I never risked doing this for any important assessment at university. Maybe 1 or 2 assessments that didn't really count towards my final grade. I was like, who cares? The screenshotting paragraphs trick is definitely on the edgy side of things. So the second method to reduce your word count, now I used this a lot in my dissertation. So I had the guidelines of that when you're doing your word count for your dissertation, references and stuff in a table doesn't count towards your final word count. So what I realized I could do is, if I was, which I was, slightly over my word count by a few hundred words, I went through my whole entire dissertation, and anything that wasn't in a table that could potentially be in a table, I put in a table. And so for example, I had this key at the bottom of my my formula for whatever reason, and I had all of the words outside of the key, and when the key for my diagrams was outside of this table, it counted towards about 25-30 words of my essay, of my dissertation. However, what I decided to do was to put that key inside a table, and then that meant that it didn't count towards my final word count, and it didn't look too out of place being in a table because it separated everything quite nicely. So the second point is all about playing the game and looking at what regulations and rules you've been given you can use to your advantage to essentially lower your word count. It might be like what I've said, tables don't count, so maybe you can put some stuff in a table. Obviously it only works within reason, guys, don't do anything stupid. The third way to reduce your word count, it's all about like turning 2 words into 1 word. Now this is something that I never really did too much myself, but I know a lot of friends who just like, I'm too tired of looking at my essay, why don't I just hyphenate everything? So I kind of had a look at their work, and words that I've never seen hyphenated before became hyphenated, and I think they got away with it, to be honest. If you're over by a minuscule amount, you could look at what words within your text or your essay or dissertation or final thesis could potentially be hyphenated to turn 2 words into 1 word. Again, this one you can get away with to reduce maybe a few words, but you really don't want to push your luck. Like, imagine hyphenating like something every sentence, it would look ridiculous. But you know, if you're desperate and you're about to give up, you're probably better off hyphenating something just as a chance you might not get a punishment for being over the word count, as opposed to just giving up and staying over the word count. Fourthly, look at your introduction. Now, from what I can remember from my university days, which was 2017 to 2020, and now I'm doing a master's in professional acting, but it's less essay based. Every essay I ever did, it was kind of like, the conclusion is 10 times more important than the introduction. This is, I'm speaking from economics point of view, and the body is much more important than the introduction. So that would kind of suggest that don't bother wasting loads and loads of words on an introduction, because often they want a real meat and your own point of view and the evidence within the body and the conclusion of the essay, as opposed to what you've written in the intro. So I think if you have to remove words from somewhere and you've got an extremely long intro, that is a very good source to kind of cut down and remove words. So yeah, have a little play around with that and see what words you can and should reduce. And the fifth and final point is to look at what words you can use that connect 2 words into 1. For example, a very big, a ginormous. You saved yourself a word. So, you know, go on the synonyms tool and think about what words you can, indeed, turn into 1 word. And that would be my 5 top essay tips for reducing your word count in a time when this is probably one of the most valuable videos I can make, sharing my wisdom and what other people have told me on how they've reduced word counts with you. I honestly think it's one of the most stressful things, like writing a great essay, finally getting it done, and realizing you're 150 words over the word count and you just don't know what to reduce, because you could reduce this, but then the whole thing doesn't make sense, or you might reduce the one thing that's going to help you get a good grade, and it can become a tiny bit of a nightmare. And as a huge disclaimer, these methods that I say may get you into trouble if you use them at university. Please do not hold me responsible. I'm not responsible. And I want to say a huge thank you to Raps.com, who will be linked down below in the description with a unique discount code for you guys, who sent me out 2 phone cases. This is one of them. Very nice indeed. Nice quality, nice hardback here. So thank you to them for sending me out this phone case. They'll be linked in the description down below. So thank you very much for watching today's video. I hope you learned lots and enjoyed it. Let me know if you've got any extra hacks down below. Hey everybody, and welcome back to the Economics Changed Me channel. Today we are going to be reviewing another stock for our watch list. This one is called Maxar Technologies. And the great thing about Maxar is that they're a very future focused company. So their whole company is based on putting satellites into space. Now, currently the share price sits at around $38. This is up fully in 6 months from a really big low of about $8, which is incredible really, $7.79 at one point. Now I did get in around the start of Jan 2020 at $18 before topping up at around the $12 mark later on in the year, and since then we have seen a massive rise, probably due to the increasing demand for space technology companies, and obviously the popularity of Elon Musk and his SpaceX company leads investors to the only 2 public options of investing in space, which are Maxar, Virgin Galactic, plus maybe 1 or 2 others, but these 2 are the main 2. So you can see their revenue is $436 million in 2020 Q3. A lot of employees. It's been founded for a long time. Their PE ratio is 6.28, which is quite good. Quite low. Low PE ratio is always better. Their market cap is 2.38 billion, which is still relatively low. Like I'm quite happy with that. It's not extremely high. I mean, obviously 2.3 billion is a huge market cap for a company, but it's not too like, oh my god, it's hundreds of billions already because it's space. You know, it's not a bad one. It does pay out a dividend yield, although it is tiny. But let's take a look at the best tech stocks. There was this article written which kind of highlighted the capabilities of once Maxar gets this technology out in space, how it can be used for literally an unlimited amount of things, photorealistic image. All up in my head, that's how I behave. Passing up the same, waking up the same. All up in my head, that's just how I behave.